Hello and good afternoon to this information event on the Marie Sklodowska-Curie actions, so the MSCA in short. As we are entering into a new phase of the program and as we have just launched several new calls for proposals, we thought it would be useful to inform researchers and any organizations interested in applying for the program to know what the novelties are, but also what the main features of these MSCA programs are, and also to inform you of the different deadlines for those who are not informed yet. So we'll start with the introduction. I'll inform you about the main, the key features of the program, the main policy objective of the program, and then my colleagues from the European Commission, from the MSCA unit, and from the Research Executive Agency will follow. They will, each of them will present in detail the different actions, the main characteristic of of these actions, the eligibility criteria, etc. And we will end with a few useful tips from the coordinator of a national contact point. But before we go into more details about the program, I'd like to remind the participants that you will be able to interact during this information session with the different speakers through Slido. We have now the results from the first Slido. The first question was related to the organizations which you are representing. So we wanted to know whether you were there on behalf of research organization, a public body, an enterprise, an individual researcher, or other. Unfortunately, the screen is very small, so maybe Gérard, my colleague Gérard, can tell us what's the result of this first polling.
Yes, no problem. Thank you, Claire. Today we have with us mostly academic or research organizations. Well, the numbers are still growing, but we have around 60% of academic research organizations, more or less 33% of individual researchers, and also 5% of public bodies, organizations, and also some companies and enterprises are with us today with 2%.
Okay, that's very interesting, and it will maybe allow us to target more precisely our presentation. So thank you very much for having taken part in this first Slido. I'd like to remind you as well that today's program will be divided into different sections. So we'll start with this welcoming session where I will present the main outline and the main policy objective of the MSCA. It will last until 2:30. Then from 2:30 to 3:45, you will have presentation of the actions targeted at supporting institutions. So we will have a presentation of the doctoral networks, the staff exchanges, and the co-fund action. This will be followed by a presentation on the postdoctoral fellowships from 4 to 4:30. Then there will be a session of 15 minutes from 4:30 to 4:45 on our actions, bringing science and researchers closer to the public. So this is the MSCA and citizens action. Then there will be a last session from 4:45 to 5 on tips on how to apply for the next calls, where to find the information, and getting support for preparing your application with the participation of a colleague from a national contact point. So in order for you to go to each of these sessions, you will need to go back to the main program and click on the corresponding link to attend each of the subsections. And as I said, you will be able to interact with each of the speakers through Slido. So you'll be able to after each presentation, there will be a Q&A session based on the question that you will send us. If we are not able to answer all your questions, we will publish a Q&A, let's say, note on our website after the event. So we can start, and I'll start now with my presentation. And the first slide, which shows where the MSCA is located under the New Horizon Europe program for research and innovation. So the MSCA are part of Pillar 1, which is the pillar which funds excellent science. It supports frontier research and breakthrough scientific ideas, and it allows teaming up of the best researchers from Europe, but also from the world, and equips them with skills and offers them access to excellent research infrastructure. The new budget for the next multi-annual financial period of 7 years will be 6.6 billion euro, which represents a slight increase compared to the previous financing period. Now, if we go to the next slide, on the key figures for the previous period, so since 2014 until 2020, under Horizon Europe, the MSCA have supported more than 65,000 researchers in Europe and beyond, both doctoral candidates, 25,000 of them, but also more experienced researchers, and have funded more than 1,000 excellent international doctoral networks from all sorts of organizations. You will hear that the program is open not only to the academic world, but we put a particular emphasis on cooperation with the non-academic world. The program has also promoted strong links, as I said, beyond academia, with industry, business, with SMEs. And you see that more than 4,500 companies have been involved in the previous version of the Marie Skłodowska-Curie Action. The program supports women into research and contributes to achieving equal access of female researchers, making up to almost 42% of all researchers involved in the program. And we hope that under Horizon Europe, this figure will continue to rise. Then on the next slide, you will see what the MSCA is about. I mean, it's really the EU flagship program for doctoral and postdoctoral training. It contributes to developing highly skilled researchers who are able to detect upcoming challenges, who are able as well to communicate scientific evidence to policymakers, but also to society at large, and to work across disciplines. It's a program which provides researchers with skills that are needed in the labor market, who are able to innovate, to convert knowledge and ideas into products and services for the economic and the social benefit of society. And it develops as well excellent doctoral programs, which allows institutions involved in the program to enhance their attractiveness and their global visibility. And through the program, we really want to promote the EU's global attractiveness for talent. If we go to the next slide, you will see what the main, let's say, features of the programs are. Maybe I should say a word on the geographic coverage of the program. The Commission, we expect all the countries that were associated to Horizon 2020 to be associated from the start of Horizon Europe, except for Switzerland, with which negotiation for association have been stopped, and with the addition of the UK, which will be associated to Horizon Europe. And other countries may join later in the program's life cycle. So I'm talking of the 16 countries that were associated so far to Horizon 2020. Those are the EFTA countries, the candidate countries, and the countries covered by the European neighborhood policy. Now, if we look at the key features of the program is not new. It's celebrating its 25th anniversary. It's a program which supports researchers at any stage of their career, with a very strong focus on training, skills, and career development. It promotes as well, I think, as I mentioned, a structuring impact not only on individual researchers, but also on organizations, especially through the doctoral programs, the postdoctoral fellowship as well. The program is what we call a bottom-up program, which means that it covers all scientific disciplines. We do not organize calls for proposals for targeted fields, and all the proposals are selected on the basis of their excellence, the impact, and the quality and efficiency of their implementation. Of course, the program has a strong and rich scientific impact. Just to give you an example, the 2020 Innovation Radar Prize, the EU Radar Prize was awarded to an MSCA project on breast cancer therapy. The program supports international, cross-sectoral and interdisciplinary cooperation. It's open to the world, and it's so open really to researchers from all over the world. Today, about 40% of our researchers are from outside the EU. It's the most international program under Horizon 2020, and we really want this to continue to be the case under Horizon Europe. We promote very strong link beyond academia, and you will see that we also offer financial incentive to promote this cooperation with the non-academic world, and the MSCA as well promotes attractive working and employment conditions. So all MSCA researchers are recruited under employment contract with guaranteed social security coverage, sickness insurance, and they receive monthly allowances, as you will see, to cover their living, their mobility, and also their family costs. If we go to the next slide, you will see the policy background against which, let's say, the MSCA are operating. So the Marie Skłodowska-Curie actions are really contributing both to the European research area and the European education area. So they are really at the crossroad between the two areas, contributing to retain talent in Europe and reinforcing intersectoral mobility and cooperation. The program, as I said, contributes to EU external policies with a very large and active alumni network that is really spread all around the world. The program is committed to the European Charter for Researchers, but also the Code of Conduct for the recruitment of researchers, which aim to give researchers the same rights and obligations throughout the EU and beyond. And these are really key elements of the EU's policy to make research an attractive career. The program as well promotes innovative doctoral training principles, which promote attractive institutional environment, interdisciplinary research, exposure to the non-academic world, international networking, training on transferable skills, which really are the very basis of what the MSCAs are about. Of course, MSCA supports open science, which, as you probably know, is a system which allows open and collaborative ways of producing, sharing, and communicating about knowledge and data. You see on this slide a new publishing platform that was open recently, Open Research Europe, which allows you to share and to publish your research that is generated through Horizon 2020, and to have an open peer review process. The next slide is about the, let's say, the novelties under this new version of the MSc under Horizon Europe. We have been asked whenever we were doing a consultation of our stakeholders to keep the program as it is, to reduce the number of changes, because it really caters perfectly for the needs of the research community. So we have been asked to keep, let's say, the changes to a minimum and to keep the main actions. So what we've tried to do is really to simplify some rules, to have harmonized conditions. We, for example, have abolished some sub-actions that existed in the past. We have as well adapted the names of the actions to make them more intuitive, especially for newcomers. We're trying to reduce as well. You will hear from my colleagues that the rules have been simplified to reduce the administrative burden on institutions and researchers. One of the main, let's say, challenge which we are facing is the high demand for our actions, and the fact that given the really high number of proposals that we receive, there is a risk maybe to alter a bit the quality of the selection process. So have had to introduce some what we call the demand management measures to reduce the number of applications for some actions, in particular for the postdoctoral fellowship. Last year, we received more than 11,000 applications for the last call of the individual fellowship under Horizon 2020. And you will see that as well under the doctoral networks, some let's say limitations have been introduced. My colleagues will tell you more about that. We have developed new guidelines on supervision. This is as well a recommendation that comes from our stakeholders. And these recommendations, they provide a set of guidelines to ensure that the researchers are properly supervised. And these recommendations, they really cover all aspects of research support and career development, well-being, conflict resolutions, etc. We are working as well to make MSCA a greener program by promoting sustainable behaviors and policies, by providing support as well to policy and decision-making. For example, next week, we are organizing a big cluster event around the Green Deal with our researchers who have been involved in projects related to the Green Deal. And we have as well introduced a new MSCA Green Charter, which outlines the main, let's say, principle which MSCA beneficiaries and researchers are encouraged to observe during the implementation of their projects. For example, we recommend that they prevent or minimize the production of waste and harmful substances, that they prioritize the use of low carbon forms of transportation, or employ teleconferencing tools, which is something we are all used now to use as a complement to physical mobilities. Another aspect is the reinforced synergies within Horizon Europe, but also with other EU funding programs like the structural funds or the Erasmus program. The next one is about our attempt to make the MSCA more gender-friendly and inclusive. So as I mentioned, the program supports women into research, contributes to achieving equal access of women to science. So we are committed really to promote this equality and to raise as well awareness on gender-related issues, including unconscious gender bias, for example, during the selection of process and through dedicated training events. In order to overcome the obstacles to hire women researchers, we will cover additional costs now linked to the maternity or parental leave through the MSCA grant. And the family allowances will be accessible for researchers during the whole duration of the project, even if their parental status changes during the duration of the project, which is a novelty of the program. Finally, we will adopt as well a broader definition of family to ensure that researchers in recognized LGBTI couples can access the allowances, even if such relationships are not recognized in the fellow or the host countries. The next slide is about academia and non-academia cooperation. It's I don't want to say too much on this because I've already said a lot. I mean, it's one of our priorities. Currently, 50% of our fellows are already benefiting from some sort of cross-sectoral mobility and exposure to the non-academic sector. And we want this percentage to increase. So as I mentioned, we want to do this including through financial incentives. So for example, we will provide financial incentive to set up industrial doctorates, which are jointly supervised by academic and non-academic organizations, by offering financial support to up to 15 doctoral candidates instead of 10 for regular doctoral networks. Under our postdoctoral fellowships, we will grant an additional period of up to 6 months for researchers who intend to spend part of their fellowship in the non-academic sector. Now my last slide is about the different actions that will now be presented to you. So you see that we have 5 actions. The biggest one, which represents half of our budget, funds international doctoral networks, including joint doctorates and industrial doctorates. And they are established by consortia of universities, but also research centers, enterprises, and any relevant non-academic partner. We also have postdoctoral fellowships for more experienced researchers interested in doing their research in Europe, but also outside Europe, and for excellent researchers from outside Europe to come to Europe. We have a staff exchange action which funds short-term international and intersectoral exchanges of staff members involved in our activities. We also have a co-fund action that co-finances new or existing doctoral programs and postdoctoral fellowship schemes. And finally, the MSCA and Citizens, which is our public outreach action, which funds mainly the European Researchers' Night that takes place every year throughout Europe at the end of September. So I'm coming now to the end of my presentation, and I'm turning to my colleague Gérard to see if there are any questions or if we should move to the next presentation on doctoral networks.
Thank you very much, Claire. Indeed, we have a question for you. I think people will be happy to know whether the calls that appear as closed in the funding attendance portal or forthcoming are really open, and yeah, when they will be able to access the submission links.
Yes, so indeed, the calls are really open. They opened on the 22nd of June, but for 2 actions, I think it's for the postdoctoral fellowships and the doctoral networks, the submission links is not fully operational yet, but this should be solved in the coming days. So anyway, you can have access to all the documents, to of course the work program, the guide for applicants, the forms are there, but they are not completely fully operational. The deadlines are in October, so it leaves you plenty of time to prepare your applications.
Thank you very much, Claire. Indeed, all the documentation is already available, including the guide for applicants. And well, just keep tuned and connect to the funding and tenders portal for all the updates. I think, Claire, we have time for another question.
Yes.
So in this case, someone is asking, you mentioned that you received 11,000 applications last year for postdoctoral fellowships. How many were funded?
So we funded, yes. Is there another question or is it the only one? Yeah.
For this one, it's been replied already, I see now. So yeah,
okay.
it was 1,630 applications.
Exactly.
Indeed.
So it means that we fund around 15% usually of all the applications for the postdoctoral fellowships, the former individual fellowships, yes. And yes, please.
Sorry, Claire. And regarding your words on Switzerland, there were many questions. And of course, people would like to know when they will know more about the status and the possibility of organizations to take part.
So for the time being, the association of Switzerland to Horizon Europe and more generally to all EU programs has come to an halt. So it means that Switzerland will be considered as a third country under Horizon Europe and for the MSCA.
Thank you very much, Claire. I think that we don't have more questions for the moment linked to this generic part. Yeah, there is one last one, which can be relevant as well. And it's about the participation of the UK. We received this question many times in the past.
So yes, the UK will be associated to Horizon Europe. So as of the beginning of the program, so it's considered as an associated country.
Thank you very much, Claire. Indeed, you can access the MSCA website where you will find a relevant note with information about the association of the UK.
Okay. So I think that after this general introduction about the MSCA, we can now move to the presentation on the doctoral networks. My colleague Julien will make this presentation, but you need to leave this link and go to the next link that will lead you to the next session. Thank you for your attention.